Hello everyone, Scott Sylvan Bell coming to you live from Oahu. It is April 19th, I keep wanting to say 20th, April 19th, 2015. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, one of the things that you could do, and you don't have to hear what's going on between the conversation between the buyer and the seller, is to watch the body language of what's going on between the salesperson as they're interacting with the buyer, okay? So the first thing I want to share with you is body language should be smooth. Right? So jerky body movement usually is a sign of being startled, and that usually happens in the objection process. The next thing to take a look at is the eye contact. See how much that salesperson is making good eye contact with the buyer, and you can normally tell even from a distance of about 10 or 15 feet. You may not have to hear what's going on, but you can see where their eye contact is. Now, there's also a point where the objection process happens where the eye contact, it starts getting a little bit nervous on the part of the seller because they don't want to get that rejection to happen. So pay attention to if you can hear what's going on, pay attention to what their body is doing. Now, the next thing is how often they're pointing. That's a good idea to pick up, how often they're pointing. How often they're shifting in a chair. If they're shifting, you know, sometimes people will rock as they're talking, right? I fall for that sometimes. Well, not fall for it, I do it. Sometimes I rock while I'm talking. It helps me keep beat, keeps metronome of what's going on. But you know what, it could be distracting to the buyer, and so instead of them paying attention to the message, they're paying attention to, like, why is Scott rocking? Does he think he's a snake, right? And then, so some of it is gonna come down to posture too. Somebody who's standing straight up, shoulders straight across, you know, chin up, is gonna make a difference in somebody who's gonna be slouched, leaning forward, right? Slouched, leaning forward as they're talking, because it changes the arrangement of how somebody's vocal presentation comes out as they're standing straight up or sitting straight up. Now, one of the things that you get to see is if somebody's sitting at a table, here's a mistake that salespeople make is they like to sit over the edge. So if here's the table right here, they're leaning over the table, and it could put a sense of not being calm on the part of the buyer, because it can be intimidating. So if the buyer is sitting here and they're leaning over the table, and then the sellers, I'm sorry, if the salesperson is leaning over the table and the buyer is leaning way back, it's usually a sign that salesperson isn't paying attention, and that buyer could be taking it as a threat. So pay attention to all the things that are going on. You know, look for the eye contact, the head tilts, the nods, the way that the body is arranged, either standing straight up or leaned over, the way that people are sitting at the table. These are all definite signs of, you know, you could tell if the sale could be being made, or if there's a lot of objections that are about to happen in the sales process. Now, if you get a chance and you're watching the person and you get to hear the rejection or the objection as it comes through, watch their body language for sure, because there's this thing called the elastic reaction. So imagine that for a second that somebody punches me right here, my body's gonna kind of cave in, and I'm gonna accept that blow like if we were fighting. So one of the things that happens is when salespeople get an objection, they have the elastic reaction. So it's like they get punched and then they roll forward, and it's like sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, it's very glaring and you can pick up on it. But watch these things as salespeople go through their process, when they're in their questioning process, when they're talking with the buyer, as they're interacting with the buyer, and if they get objections. Now, here's the thing, sometimes when salespeople get sales, they create a problem for themselves, because then they start getting really excited and they start bouncing, like, you know, a little kid does, like a little kid starts bouncing when they get candy, or like I do when I get bacon. So just start paying attention to everything and say, hey, you know what? You know, I'm hoping that I don't do this in my process, and by you being aware of it, you can start picking up the things that you're doing right and that you're doing wrong. Now, if you could do a small favor for me in the box down below, leave a comment, question, or story, that'd be fantastic. To the right or to the left, like over in here, there is a subscribe button. Subscribe, and then send it out to all your friends via StumbleUpon, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, LinkedIn. Scott Sylvan Bell, only Scott Bell. See you soon. Thanks for watching. Aloha.